Welcome to Madame Raven's. This way to the library. She's been expecting you.
The Demon's Butterfly by our very own Pixabay. A heart black as night has been scarred from holding a beautiful soul, incapable of knowing how to sustain such a prized possession. Still even the cursed craves a glimpse of hope to keep a creation of such magnitude for themselves. Crouching on its twisted perch, crimson eyes scanning the vast wasteland, it catches a flash of fluttering color. As cold as its thoughts may be, this dancing brilliance of the butterfly fills the demon with a lust to nurture its existence. With a hobble and a leap, the demon hides behind the black rose and waits, flaunting its fragile wings to the rhythm of the demon's heartbeat. The butterfly settles on the velvet petals that bloom before the hidden eyes. A wide, rose-tainted claw unfolds slowly before the butterfly as a deceitful offering. Since manipulation is the only source that feeds the demon's veins, it doesn't think twice about snatching up something so precious for itself. The spellbound demon insists on deceiving itself to believing it's possible to unite with its masterpiece. Despite its own hideous appearance, just as it wished, the butterfly glides into its open palm. A faint grin rises on the demon's narrow, weather-beaten face. Flushed with ecstasy, it can barely contain its new feelings and staggers to keep its ground. The demon sits down gently and tickles the butterfly's wings. A great calm fills the demon's thoughts. It has finally found what it perceives to be true love. Just as existence couldn't become any sweeter, the demon feels a soft flutter brushing its claw. The butterfly ascends onto the top and lifts off into a gentle breeze. The demon, stunned by this action, jumps to its feet and catches the butterfly in flight. The demon's heart pounds, ramped in its ears, for the sudden absence of the butterfly has caused an agonizing pain surging through its soul. This is the demon's butterfly and belongs to no other. The more the demon thought about losing its precious butterfly, the more it grips tightens. All at once, the fluttering on its skin disappeared. The demon opened its claws and looks at its precious treasure. The beautiful, brightly colored wings that once spread about were now withered, and all colors faded together in a mournful gray hue. The demon surprised, picks up the butterfly by the wings. Out of panic, the demon's frantic fingers lose their gentleness and accidentally pull the wings out of the butterfly. A sudden feeling of agony fills the demon as it realizes its own selfishness has destroyed the only thing it has ever loved. In tearful rage, it attempts to piece together its beautiful butterfly with no relief. The demon drops the lifeless parts onto the cold stone below. Defeated by its own being, it leaps onto its twisted perch and hangs its head in shameful disgust. Paralyzed in its pain, its claw clamping deeply into each other as they return to stone. His eyes of fire fade once again into the dreary shadows of the night. Uncle Bob by Dinozilla 6:26. I'm guessing you probably think this is going to be a story about a kid who was molested by his creepy uncle and the trauma it caused him. Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but that isn't the case at all. I love my Uncle Bob. Well, technically, he's not my uncle. More of a close family friend who I call uncle because he may as well be family. I don't have any parents. My dad left my mom as soon as he found out she was pregnant, and she died about 5 years ago after losing a battle with pancreatic cancer. Since then, Uncle Bob took me under his wing and has been the father figure I never had. And even now that I'm 16, he is still as great as he always has been. He always makes me feel safe, even staying up with me at night when my worries were keeping me awake. He always listens, gives great advice that works like a charm, and is an all-around amazing guy. We didn't often spend entire days in each other's company. His eyes are extremely sensitive to light, so he can't be outside for very long, and so he spends most of the day in the basement where it's dark. That doesn't bother him, though. He finds it weirdly comfortable down there. Lucy, our neighbor, brings us food and supplies since he can't. She's almost as great as he is. I wish she could live with us, but she has quite a busy life. It's fortunate she can find any time at all for us, although she and Uncle Bob have been talking a lot lately. They can deny it all they want, but I know love is in the air. Maybe one day they'll get married and I'll have a complete household. But I digress. School used to be reasonably easy. I didn't have a lot of friends, but I was okay with that. I liked the quiet. There was the occasional jerk that tried to make life difficult, but like I said, Uncle Bob was great at advice, so I usually was able to deal with the issue quickly and easily. That said, everything changed with my latest bully, Jessica. Jessica was the first female bully I had received, and was by far the worst. It wasn't so much what she did to me, it was the fact that she was able to get away with everything she did. In class, she was a completely different person, acting all innocent and polite when the teachers were around, but as soon as no one was looking, she would do a full 180. To add insult to injury, she would often play victim and actually get me in trouble, claiming that I did something that warranted her action or simply denying the whole thing. She'd insult me. She was standing up for herself. She punched me in the face. Self-defense. Her being a girl made it easy for her to play the victim card, and she successfully did it every single time. The worst time was a couple of weeks ago. I was just walking down the hall, minding my own business, when she came up behind me, calling my name. "Hey, Zach!" Her voice was oddly friendly for the person that made it their life's purpose to make mine a misery. I tried to ignore her and kept walking. "Zach, come on!" I kept walking. "Zach!" She darted out in front of me, blocking my way. "What do you want?" I said with a sigh. "Listen, I know why you're upset. I wouldn't want to talk to me either. I just wanted to say, I'm really sorry for how I've been treating you." What is this bitch up to, I thought. She seemed genuine, but it seemed much too good to be true. By this point, most people had made it to class, and I was starting to get anxious about being late. "Can we talk about this later?" I finally said. "I need to get to class." I started to walk past her, but she brought her hand up in front of me to stop me. "No, wait. I really need to tell you this. The reason I've been treating you like this is because I just really want you to notice me when you haven't before." Okay, now I knew this was bullshit. I didn't say a word and tried to walk away again. But of course she grabbed my hand. "I'm serious, Zach. She moved in closer and then lifted her hand up to my face and started to caress my cheek. I really like you. At this point, my heart began to beat faster. I didn't know what to say. Did she actually mean it? Deep down, I was still suspicious, but she seemed so genuine. Of course, being a hormone-filled teenager didn't help. Not gonna lie, she was pretty attractive, and it didn't help that I hadn't fat for a few days. I started to speak, my voice now quiet and shaky. I need to get to class. She slowly wrapped her arms around my neck and moved in closer. Please stay here with me. Her voice was so gentle and innocent. I'd never heard her like this before. She started to lean in to kiss me, and I was about to return it. But of course, everything crashed and burned in a time span of 8 seconds. Before her lips could meet mine, her smile turned maniacal, and she pulled back violently with her arms still around my neck. And as she fell, I fell on top of her. Once we were on the floor, she began screaming, "Get off me! Get off!" I tried to get up off of her, but before I knew it, a teacher burst out of his classroom. As you can guess, from his perspective, seeing me on top of a girl screaming her lungs out didn't exactly look like a healthy young love. Long story short, I got suspended for a week. I was lucky I wasn't expelled, but needless to say, I was pissed. I finally told Uncle Bob about this. I didn't tell him for so long because I was worried that he'd find it pathetic that I was being terrorized by a girl. In retrospect, I don't know why I thought he'd do that. And you thought I wouldn't take you seriously? Trust me, buddy. I know that teenage girls can be some of the most vicious creatures that have ever walked the planet. I began to chuckle at this, probably because, for whatever reason, I didn't expect him to react this way. But soon my laughter turned to tears. Uncle Bob pulled me with one arm and hugged me with it. Hey, it's okay. You know that I'm always going to be here for you no matter what. I'll always keep you safe. His voice was so soothing to me, and in that moment I felt safer with him than ever before. I just don't know what to do, I said tearfully. When I go back, everybody's going to think I'm a pervert. And even if they don't, Jess is just going to torment me some more and keep getting away with it. Uncle Bob let me go and lit a cigarette with a long match. Flinching a little bit from the sudden light, after taking a good draw, he spoke. I think what you need to do is become what she's painting you as. That is, the image she's created for your teachers. He put his cigarette down and started talking with more hand gestures. Now don't go too far with it. Just show her that you're not going to take it lying down anymore. But what if the teachers catch me? I asked. I wasn't sure about this advice at all. Well, I'm a big believer in karma. If she can do all that crap and get away with it, I'll bet you can do it too, as long as you time it right. Given that I've never dealt with a bully this vicious, I was skeptical of his advice. I wondered if this could be an issue that even he couldn't solve. But then he spoke again. But hey, if that doesn't work, I'll find a way to get her over here and deal with her myself. Like I said, I'm always going to protect you, no matter what. And with that, I decided to give it a go. Uncle Bob's advice never failed me before. And even if this time it did, I knew he'd have my back. I saw out my suspension, and on the day I returned to school, I made it my mission to not let Jessica get the best of me. I got a few weird faces. Some people must have believed Jessica's story, but I think enough people knew how she actually was in order to make it not an issue. But anyway, lunchtime came around, and I'd just gotten my pulled pork sandwich from the cafeteria, and I saw her. She was sat at a table between two boys, Shane and Liam. For context, they were two ex-bullies of mine that failed miserably because I learned how to deal with them quickly. Clearly, they were impressed by Jessica's ability to do what they couldn't and started hanging out with her. That or they were just trying to get into her pants. Probably both. I sat down on the opposite table, so at some point they'd notice me. I wolfed down my sandwich so she couldn't do anything with it. I'd gone hungry many times because of her, and waited. After a few minutes of pretending not to look at them, she noticed. Like a moth to a flame, as soon as she saw me, she started walking over to me. "Hey, boner boy, how was your suspension?" I remained silent. "Guess you spent it jerking off over what you couldn't have." She indicated herself. I looked her right in the eye and gave a sarcastic smile. "Nah, I have standards." She tried to hide it, but she was clearly taken aback from this. She clearly didn't like that her favorite prey was starting to adapt. I could tell because her next insult was much weaker than usual. "Well, your standards are a little too high, don't you think? No one that wasn't a retard couldn't get wet over someone like you." She couldn't have said anything more perfect. "I wouldn't say that." I quickly grabbed my cup of water, and before she had time to react, threw it on her shirt and skirt. The students nearby made noises of shock, and you should have seen Jessica's face. I didn't know people could open their mouths that wide. "See, you're wet for me right now." The other students burst out laughing while her face became even more priceless. I'd never seen her genuinely upset before, and I'd clearly struck a nerve with a knife. She leapt onto me and started punching my face repeatedly. I thought about fighting back, but that always backfired in the past. So I let her do it and tried to look as helpless as possible. After about 10 seconds, I heard a teacher shout at her to stop, but she screamed at them to F off. After punching me a few more times, 2 teachers came over and pulled her off me, kicking and screaming. I don't know if it was the fact that I had humiliated her, or the fact she'd just gotten in trouble for the first time in what I assumed had been years, but the teachers finally saw her true colors that day. She consistently cussed out the teachers, said an awful lot of nasty stuff about me, but all this led to staff realizing that I had been the victim the entire time. Eventually, she got so angry that she ended up intentionally breaking some school equipment, and as a result, she was suspended indefinitely that day. As for my face, after the beating, thankfully the worst part that came out of it was some bad bruising that would go away in a couple of weeks. The nurse gave me an ice pack to hold on my eye, but my pain was almost completely nulled by the happiness I was feeling. Not only had I stood up to the person that had tormented me for months, but I had won. I'm sure every kid who had ever been bullied would love to see their bully gone forever. And mine had. Well, not quite yet, of course. I left school that day with a massive smile on my face. I felt free. I felt the peace of mind that I had been denied for months on end. I couldn't remember the last time I'd felt this good, but once I was approaching my street, I suddenly got a very bad feeling. I was filled with a sense of dread and anxiety that I had hoped had gone away for longer. It felt like someone was watching me. I stopped walking and looked everywhere. I couldn't see anybody. That was until I heard a voice. "Get him!" And with that, Shane and Liam rushed out from the alleyway, running at me with full speed. I felt a burst of adrenaline as my legs started moving on their own as fast as they could towards my house. I dumped my backpack on the street to lighten my load and run faster, but they kept on coming. I reached my door and reached into my pocket as fast as I could and scrambled for my keys. The sound of the boys' feet getting louder and louder with each passing second. I didn't dare look behind me. I hastily unlocked the door and rushed inside. I tried to close the door, but I was too late. The boys were blocking the door from closing and were reaching to get inside. I pushed the door as hard as I could, but they were too strong. I left the door and ran towards the basement. Just as I had gotten to the door, they tackled me to the ground. They forced me onto my back and continued to pin me down, and into my view came none other than Jessica. "Did you really think I wasn't going to finish the job after that?" Her voice like that of a serial killer. She kicked me in the face. Once, twice, then a third time. My nose was bleeding at this point. "Please, just leave me alone. Get out of my house." I'd never known fear this strong. All Jessica and the boys did was laugh. With a smile on her face, she pressed her foot on my chest, restricting my breath. The harder she pressed, the less air I could get. It felt like my head was going to explode. But then the basement door flung open, and I heard Uncle Bob's voice. "He told you to get out." His voice was deep and raspy as usual. Jessica, Shane, and Liam loosened their grip on me. I could breathe again. I could hear Uncle Bob's movements as he slowly made his way up the stairs. Eventually his white, pupilless eyes came into view, glowing in the darkness. I could have sworn the intruders had stopped breathing at the sight of him. He leaned in closer, and we could just about see his full set of large, shark-like teeth in his lipless mouth, as well as his flat nose and hairless, thick forehead with wrinkled, dark gray skin. He lunged out his gigantic yet skinny arm and wrapped his four-clawed fingers around Jessica. She screamed bloody murder like there was no tomorrow. The two boys tried to make a break for it, but Uncle Bob opened his mouth and shot out his two gigantic, worm-like tongues and wrapped around each of them and lifted them up. At this point, all of them were screaming so loud my ears started to hurt. Uncle Bob retreated into the darkness, taking them all with him. After that, I would hear the crunching of flesh and bone as one after the other, the screams became muffled, then ceased, the first being Shane's, then Liam, then Jessica. Hers took the most amount of time to stop. He really took his time with her. After about a minute or so, the crunching stopped, and I started to stand up. I was still in a lot of pain, and it would hurt to cough after what Jessica did to my chest. I steadily walked through the door and began treading down the stairs. I could see Uncle Bob licking the blood off his hand. He raised his head to meet my gaze. "You all right, champ? You took quite a beating there." "I'll live," I replied. "Are those three going to give you a stomach ache?" Uncle Bob chuckled. "You kidding me? I once ate 5 farmers in a row whilst they simultaneously crapped their pants during the 1800s. I think I'll be fine." I laughed. "With confidence like that, it's a wonder why Lucy hasn't asked you for an engagement ring." "Lucy? As in Lucifer?" "I already told you, we're just friends." "As you keep saying." Uncle Bob smirked. Well, I think he did, considering he doesn't have lips. He picked up the mangled leg of Jessica and held it to me. "You want to finish this off?" Good old Uncle Bob, generous as always. "Sure thing." So quoth this raven. Thank you all for coming to listen to my stories as always. I so appreciate your visits. And a special thanks To my Patreon supporters, Charlotte Emerson, Ermin Case, Darren and Jennifer, and Laura. If you like this, please hit the little button to let me know. If you didn't, hit the little button to let me know. Leave a comment. I'm always glad to talk with you, my darlings. I'm open to suggestions and criticisms, critiques. If you have not subscribed, please do so and ring the little bell so you know when to come up and see me. And I will talk to you next time, my darlings. Farewell.